Welcome to our next episode of
Fandom
Family
Chats.
This is a production of Family Fan Clubs on Facebook. You can find us all over Facebook. You can find us all over social media under Fandom Family Chats. Look us up, get dialed in, get plugged in, and get ready to listen to some crazy people talk crazy stuff.
Welcome back to Fandom Family Chats. I'm Amanda.
I'm Eve.
And today, or tonight actually, we are talking about Station 19 and Grey's Anatomy, Amanda's favorites. Yay. And the opening of this with Ben Ben did not forgive himself for last week. And this is killing my heart.
That was really painful to see.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I didn't think anything of it. Like, he just had paperwork there. And then Bailey came in and started snatching it all away and going on about him punishing himself. I'm like, oh my gosh, is he like still doing incident reports? Like, I mean, to us, it's been a week, or no, 2 weeks actually. But like, I wonder in like their time, like
2 days.
It's been 2 days.
She did. She said it's been 2 days.
Still,
and I was like, oh, it's only been 2 days.
But still, I mean,
it's so sad.
I
don't know when he'll be back. I think he's going to have to take I bet he'll be back to the fire station next week. I'm hoping.
He'll be back soon. He can't stay away from too long just because, you know, he is who he is.
He's lost people before, though, hasn't he? I mean, I think this one just hit something because he promised when he shouldn't have promised.
And for whatever reason, this one just seemed to hit him that much harder.
Yeah.
And he was really, really pulling for Milo, which I love the name Milo.
I do love the name Milo.
It's a very cute name. It's like you get like a little, I don't know. It's just a very cute name.
I wish I would have thought of that name.
You're glad you're done with kids.
Maybe the next animal. Getting back to Grey's, Bailey, I think, is going to thankfully help Ben through this, which we all know she was going to. But Milo's mom, she made me so sad.
I loved her. I want to give that woman a hug.
I did too. She was obviously beating herself up over this. And I don't blame her. I don't blame her at all for beating herself up and feeling bad and guilty. At the same time, she did what was best for her son.
I mean, it sounded like he had relapse after relapse after relapse. And there's only so much you can do to help someone who doesn't want it. I mean, ultimately, until they want the help, like nothing's going to change. So I just felt so bad for this poor woman that she was beating herself up over the fact that she really did everything she knew to do.
I mean, could she have maybe researched the house that she put him up in a little bit better? Yes. What's the likelihood of this happening? Very little.
Granted, when someone says, hey, don't do that, that's a fire hazard, it doesn't, I mean, it sounds silly, but you know what I mean. It doesn't occur to me that, hey, a fire is absolutely going to happen.
Yeah. Oh, and you know, it's probably a 50-50 chance, but she didn't know that. And I guarantee you, she was just so, like she said, she has run out of money to try to help her child, which I think is so unfair. So unfair. There should be so many more types of free programs, not just in our country, but the world, to help people, to help drug addicts. And I know not all of them will be successful, but there has to be something.
Unfortunately, I think those free programs probably have long wait lists because of the amount of people who need them, which is also pretty, crummy.
Yeah. I mean, it's just, I don't know how to solve this obvious issue that the world has with drugs. I mean, I'm one person and I have never been a drug addict, but I come from a family of drug addicts. So I have been personally affected by it most of my life. My parents were great, but other people in my family, I won't name names or relations. It's really hard to deal with a drug addict who doesn't want help and is an adult. There's very little that you can do unless he wants help. And if he wanted help bad enough, to which I think he was on the up and up, but until you get fully healed, there's not really much you can do if you have very little money. Now, if you have all the money in the world, you can get more treatments and more help. Will it save your life? No. But I just feel like there needs to be a lot more help. And I don't know what to do for that. But I'm glad that Station 19 and Grey's Anatomy are, again, touching on it.
It's a big problem, and I don't know what it's going to take to fix it, but it needs to be fixed.
Maybe Grey's Anatomy will fix it.
Yes. Can we? Okay, I need to study the name of the new showrunner because we need someone to blame or responsibility to put on someone. And I can't keep saying what's their names, who's the showrunner.
Meg.
That's easy enough. I feel like I should remember that.
Marnis? It's Marinis.
We'll go with Meg. Meg works for me.
We're going Meg. I don't know how to say her last name. It actually looks simple, but I don't want to butcher it. So
maybe Meg will fix it.
Meg needs to fix a lot. But this has been one of my favorite seasons of Grey's Anatomy after season 10, probably. This season has really impressed me when I thought the show was completely dead.
I feel like since season 10, it's kind of been like up and down.
Yeah, like I wouldn't get rid of all the seasons after 10 because they do have good parts. I mean, like Alex didn't leave till 16. There's still a lot of good parts in it after 10, but I wouldn't say any of them were my favorites after 10. I usually feel like I will rewatch Grey's Anatomy over and over again, but once I get to like 13, 14, I usually start back over. I don't like watching any of the ones where Alex leaves, DeLuca dies, COVID dreams.
Yeah, or the awful, what was it, 17? Yeah, season 17. Was that the COVID
That was
one?
COVID year.
You know what? When I get to that point in my rewatch, and I'm going to power all the way through, when I get to that point, I swear to you, I am skipping season 17. There is nothing in season 17 worth watching.
Nope. Zero.
It's
and I know they did that because Ellen Pompeo has something to where she really couldn't be on the set very much.
They couldn't have come up with something else, though. Seriously. Is that the best they had?
They just, okay, I don't want to go too far into but I have to say, I know they wanted to bring people back, and it was kind of giving them a chance to do these COVID vivid dreams to like bring all these people back. And it was nice seeing them, but it was just, they try to make Grey's Anatomy relevant in the world. And they're always talking about real world problems and how, solutions can come about and everything that's going on real world. But it just seemed so fake and soap opera ish. I don't feel like Grey's Anatomy is a soap opera. You know what I mean by soap opera, right? Like The Young and the Restless, Days of Our Lives. That's what season 17 felt like, but just a really bad one.
Like the bad one that, you keep watching because it's like a train wreck. You just watch it crash and burn.
I mean, I watched every week. I didn't miss an episode.
And we sat here on this podcast and complained about it every week. Well, no, I don't think we did. I think we started with the finale, but that was bad enough.
Yeah, season 17 just needs to disappear or something. I don't know. I won't rewatch it.
They need to lose all the film for that one.
18, I wasn't that impressed either.
19's been good though.
19, they have redeemed themselves and I have loved it. I was not impressed this week very much, but I can completely 100% pass that by and forgive them because the rest of the season has been amazing. So
they are allowed one not so good episode in each
exactly.
season. Okay.
And I know this was a big episode to redeem Link, which we'll get to in a little bit. I don't want to get too far off of Station 19 because we are actually talking about Station 19, but we've been talking about Ben in the hospital and Bailey. And so there's a little bit of a crossover this week. So we're going to be talking a little bit about both throughout this, I'm sure. So Ben might be out for a bit, but in the meantime, Beckett is back. Hello. And I loved it.
I loved it too. And I was suddenly like, I don't know, maybe my problem was, well, obviously the problem was his drinking on the job. That
Yes.
was the biggest thing. But we'll get into in a tiny bit. But I like him as, not in a position of power.
Mm-hmm.
I like him as just like a member of the team. Like he was awesome.
Yeah, he really was. He apologized for his behavior. I was kind of more afraid he was just going to come back in and be like, look what you guys have put me down to, and just been kind of nasty about it. But he came back in, and I was really impressed with his inertia and actions this week. I really was.
I have to say though, I still am a little worried about him come the end of the episode because he apologized to everybody, which, is one of the steps to recovery.
Yes.
From my outsider's understanding of it anyway.
Mm-hmm.
He gave Theo his, like, it was an axe or something.
Yeah.
And he doesn't want to be captain anymore. So now I'm sitting here thinking, is he going to be a crisis one call next week? Because now I'm worried about him, because that's like textbook, like giving away possessions and
Yeah.
so I wonder if that's the direction they're going, and if they are, I don't care for it.
I know it did. The thought popped into my head as I was watching it, as well as I'm sure everybody else's was, but I don't know. I don't know if they would do that. They would. Why am I saying that? Knock on wood. I hope they don't go down that route, but they very could have. I hope not.
I hope it doesn't get to that point. I can see it I mean, if it got to the point where he has to be talked down and they need to get him help,
Mm-hmm.
like I would be okay with that.
Yeah.
But
I'm hoping that through his program, it will help him through it. I don't blame him for not wanting to be captain anymore, though. I do not blame him.
that's a tough group to be a captain for.
After like what he's done, could you imagine going and try to be captain again? Nobody would respect him. I mean, I feel like they would, but in his mind, he's gonna feel like he lost a lot of respect. You know what I mean?
And
I
also, for the sake of his sobriety, that's a lot of responsibility to go ahead and pile onto his plate. So
Yeah,
I
it's too stressful.
yeah, it's probably just too much. Like he said, he just wants to, be part of the team and do whatever needs doing.
Mm-hmm. I mean, because also think about Richard. Let's go back over to Gray. Let's talk about Richard. Whenever he was chief and in such a higher position, he had a lot more problems with the alcohol. He kept like not over and over again. He only relapsed a couple of times, but the main majority of those times was when he was in a really stressful situation, which comes with the territory of being a captain, being a chief, being in those really higher up positions. That's a lot more stress, and it really does trickle down to addiction and relapse and everything,
And
unfortunately.
even Bailey, who, she's not an addict whatsoever, but even she was crushed by the pressure of being
Mm-hmm. I mean,
um
health wise, I thought she was going to have
call it,
another heart attack.
I want to call it captain, that's not right.
Chief.
Chief, the other one.
Yeah,
But it's a hard job.
it is. It's very stressful. So maybe for his sobriety, he shouldn't be captain anymore.
Yeah, being in charge of grown-ups is hard. That's why I never want to be principal. Grown-ups
No.
don't listen.
I
Oh my,
know how I stress, and I know I cannot be put under too stressful of situations. I know myself. And hopefully Beckett knows himself too well enough to know that he still loves the job and he still loves the field of work he's in, but maybe not a captain position to where he has that much responsibility.
I felt like he was really able to just relax this week
Yeah.
and just focus solely on this poor girl who was in so much shock.
Let's talk about this accident this week because holy moly, this was heartbreaking and terrifying, really, as a parent. Heartbreaking and terrifying. And then the moms showing up, I was just, as soon as she got that phone and started calling her mom, I was like, oh my God, like, why are they even allowing her to do this right now? Because that I feel like just,
I was like cheering Maya on when she was having a go at that terribly in about that poor inconvenienced man who just wanted to drive on through, and this whole car crash was ruining his day. Dude,
I was like, oh my
there's a
gosh,
dead teenager up there whose
shut
mother
up.
doesn't know that she just lost her kid. Maybe just march your butt on back to that car and think about your life choices, okay?
Yeah, I think Maya, I was cheering her on too during that part. And I don't really cheer Maya very often, but I was like, good job. Good job, Maya.
Yeah,
So
you can lose your lose your stuff over terrible people like this inconvenienced man. I wanted to punch him in the face.
I think Maya did too.
I was
And
impressed that she didn't because I feel like that's what was coming next.
thankfully he turned around and walked off.
I think that was the best decision.
Yeah, that was,
Like that's your only recourse is to just turn around and leave.
oh my gosh. So we had these three teenagers. The one in the back, I feel like we all immediately knew had not survived that accident. And then to sit there and find out that they were all teenagers, that was the really hard part. And then Beckett, though,
You're just skipping school to go get prom dresses.
like how awful to do something you're not supposed to do as a teenager. And usually it turns out okay, knock on wood. Should you do it? No. If you're a teenager listening to this, listen to your parents. I swear they know what they're talking about. But
It may seem like the dumbest people on the face of the planet, but they know what they're talking about. Promise.
I swear we're still relevant some way. But Beckett talking to that girl in the car, as we were just talking about Beckett a second ago, of saying how much he is, really did impress us this week. And his little speech to her really did impress me as well, of getting her to calm down and relating and just talking her through it, because we don't really ever see that with Beckett when he's captain. We don't get to see him really, I don't know, like,
What I love, well, we don't really get to see any captain really get that because they're so busy,
yeah,
directing the
it's
rest of
not
the.
their job.
But what I loved was his speech was kind of on the harsh side of telling this girl, hey, life isn't fair. But then he also had the part where, and I'm so sorry you had to learn it this way, but you're going to learn from this and life's going to go on.
Which is really hard to hear when that just happened.
It's, yeah, especially when you're that young and you're going through, this particular event. I
Mm-hmm.
mean,
I mean,
it's a hard
yeah,
lesson to learn that young.
it really is. And no, I wish nobody would have to learn that lesson that young, but it does
or
happen.
or that way.
Or or that way. That would be the least likely thing I'd want to do. So not only do we have the teenagers, we also have the other lovely couple who I ended up just almost falling in love with because they were so sweet and cute and they had just found each other again.
I
And
love them. They were so cute.
I loved it. I mean, we were mainly focused on the teenagers and the deceased and all the drama to come from the accident, but I really did love to see that we kind of had a little bit of a positivity in this much chaos. That it was something good to a little something good rather than just all sad and mopey. I don't know how to explain it.
They got rescued. They both got out of the car, and then Jack called the hospital later and found out that he proposed, like they're both okay, and he proposed and she accepted. And
That's right. It's all coming back to my head now. I was like, wait, did I walk out? I do that sometimes. Again, my brain. Sorry. Yeah, no, I loved seeing the happy couple along the side with the tragedy that happened in this accident. So this was a pretty emotional emergency that we had this week, but those guys from the other station didn't really seem to care. They seemed more focused on Ross and Sullivan's whole thing this week, which also was pretty annoying. I'm so tired of this. Like, why can't they just be together?
That was so gross.
It was gross. It was rude. It was disgusting. Like,
she is your
making fun of her.
Boss's boss. I don't know how far up the chain she goes, but like this is your like ultimate boss, and you're poking fun at her for her love life. It's disgusting. Like
it's none of their business. It's none of their business.
You're cleaning up a freaking crash site
with a dead child. And this is the time you're going to be making fun of your chief?
So glad your priorities are straightened out.
They all need to be gone if it was me. And Ross, I felt so bad for Ross this week. And I did not blame her for packing up her stuff. I didn't want to see her go. That was the last thing. And I loved that it was Andy who went in there and stood her ground and refused to leave.
And in true Andy fashion, she was annoying about it. I was like, I like this.
Yes.
And that's really like how Andy is. Like she is stubborn, and when she wants something, she will annoy the crap out of you until you do what it is that she wants you to do.
Yeah, and she did. And it worked. Ross ended up opening up to the media in the end. And then I guess we'll probably see more of the outcome later on from that part of how the media and the public kind of really respond to it. I don't think this is all over. I don't think it's all happily ever after all over yet. And then Andy also lecturing Sullivan, by the way, had me smirking the entire time. So it's like, this is ironic. A little bit.
Just a little.
Just a little bit ironic. But I feel like he listens to her.
Yeah.
I think he really does have that respect for Andy. They might not be in love anymore or whatever, but I feel like there's still that really mutual respect between the two of them that I really do like and enjoy.
Yeah, even if he doesn't give off the idea that he really is listening to her and respects what she's saying, like he does.
Mm-hmm.
But he's just stubborn and mad about how Ross chose to go about everything, and he's ghosting her, which is real crappy.
It's really crappy, and I think he'll see his ways soon. I really feel like Ross and Sullivan will be end game. I think it might be take a little bit to get there. Next week he's still not going to be okay because he's really wanting that captain position. But obviously so is Andy and Theo.
You know what?
Theo needs to shoe, in my opinion. It should be up to Andy and Sullivan.
Theo had his time. He's not the greatest captain.
He's not doing bad. He's not doing as bad as I thought he was going to do. I will say that.
And Sullivan, sure, he has the chops. He's a great captain, but this is Andy's team. Like,
Thank you.
She deserves it. She has been at the station for years and years and years. She grew up at this station.
Mm-hmm.
Like, she's really, I feel like Andy is the only person at that station that everybody respects.
Mm-hmm. I do too. I I'm 100% team Andy when it comes to the captain spot. I would be okay with Sullivan getting it. I wouldn't be like angry. I think I would be a little bit angry if Theo got the spot. He's the newest almost in the house. And I feel like he's just kind of in third place here. I mean,
Yeah, I agree. Like, I'm not going to be upset if Sullivan gets it because he definitely has earned it. But I really think it needs to go to Andy. And I am not pleased with how it looks like they're going to be picking the captain because it looks like the three of them are getting a turn to be captain each part of this one call, which sounds like a really, really, really bad idea.
it sounds like it would get too confusing. I mean,
It's very confusing, and it's not. I mean, these are people's lives. Like, you can't.
this is not a testing simulation here.
Yeah, like, by all means, take them to a simulation and do a competition there. Fine, but don't use a real call, as a test for like three different people who are going out for captain. Like, that's not cool at all. This for station 19, and we're going to go ahead and start with Grey's episode 17. So I guess we're getting closer to the end of the season.
Come fly with me. Come fly, let's fly away. I like that song. That's the name of the episode this week, guys. If y'all were just thinking I was really random singing.
Yeah, she didn't randomly burst into song, although actually she did. But
I did.
Has something to do with the episode, we promise.
And I'm sorry because I can't sing.
Well, I was a little confused with the start of this episode because it started
you and me both.
Nick being stood up, and at first I was like, was Meredith supposed to be coming to Seattle to meet him and she just stood him up? Like,
that's what I took.
That's what I thought, but no, it turned out to be Lucas.
Yep.
And I was like, well, okay, so that makes sense because I know that they have this, mentoring thing going on. But then I was like, that's an odd way to, and like that was the opening of the episode with like Amelia being like, hey, what's up? Being stood up. Like,
I know he said that. I was like, oh, is Meredith going to be in this episode? I was like, oh, maybe she's like going to come later. Or maybe they just needed to talk about her. I don't know.
I don't know. But apparently that was not the case. Poor Lucas. He had a rough week.
He really did. I felt bad for him. He had so Nick just going off. Do this. I was like getting anxiety. I was like, how are you?
I was sitting there like, I'm still processing the good morning part of this whole thing.
Yeah.
Like, our brains are not in the same place, pal.
Not at all. And I understand. Like, I'm not going to talk about this part a little too much, but the whole thing, I think the entire reasoning for this entire storyline this week was to get to the base problem of Lucas, 99% sure, has ADHD. So many people have it nowadays. I mean, let's get real. And
so much more there's so much more that's known about it these days.
Yes.
It's so much easier to diagnose people. So
yeah.
In case anyone's wondering why there are more people with ADHD these days, there are not. It's just easier to identify them.
It's easier to identify them, and it's more people actually recognizing that it's okay to have it and it's not your fault and you can be helped. It's not something you did. It's a medical problem. It's a chemical imbalance.
And there are very positive things about it too.
Yes.
But I do
absolutely.
There was one thing that kind of bothered me just a tiny bit. I didn't dwell on it too much. Was when Nick just came out and said, you have to get your ADHD under control.
Yeah.
When he put it that way, at first, I was thinking that maybe it's known to Lucas that he does have ADHD. Like, this is not news to him.
Yeah.
But that maybe Meredith or Amelia told Nick. And I'm sitting there thinking, well, that's a pretty crummy thing to do because that's like private information.
Yeah.
But then it came out that, Lucas didn't realize that this might be that he might be neurodivergent.
Mm-hmm.
And in that case, I'm thinking that's a pretty crummy way to inform someone that, hey, I think maybe you have ADHD. You might want to check that out. Like, and then Nick, at one point, he said, well, it takes one to know one. I'm like, sure. So if you are one, how do you think that's an appropriate way
Wait, yeah, of
to approach that? Like, I
it
get, like,
wasn't. I did not like this entire.
I didn't care for Nick's approach. That was the only part of it I did not care for.
Yes, I'm glad they're talking about it because like I said, it's always been such a taboo topic when it shouldn't be. Both of my kids have ADHD. They're both on medication. And that was a very, very, very hard decision to make as a parent nowadays because when we were kids, it was a bad thing to put your kids on medication for ADHD. Like
Yeah,
you were looked down upon.
yeah, both my sister and I were medicated. And
Good.
to
And it
this
helped.
and to this day, my sister still like my sister still needs it to function.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I was able to wean myself off and I function just fine without it, and that's fine too. But
Mm-hmm.
there's just such a taboo about ADHD with people. A lot of people think it's all behavior and parenting. It's like, it's not. The brain is just
No.
not wired to do what a neurotypical person thinks is the right way to do things.
So luckily for Lucas, the attendings are already discussing the interns' struggles, which I really liked this week. We didn't really see attendings doing anything kind of medical wise, except, Bailey comforting Ben.
I had some words to say about this intern tribunal,
Mm-hmm.
and I just want to put it out there. I don't care if anyone agrees or disagrees with me, but I'm going to put it out there. They were the part when they were reminiscing about their lousy intern years, like, yeah, I lived on, ramen noodles, and where else can they get 3 meals a day for $15? Which, yeah, whatever. Just because it's what has always been done, and
Doesn't mean it's okay.
doesn't mean that it's right. And as I know a lot of professions go through this, but as a teacher, that's the part that I can speak to. Um, the thing that teachers hear a lot is, you knew what you were getting into. Sure, I did. But that doesn't mean that it's right. It doesn't mean it should
Mm-hmm.
continue to be done that way. And it doesn't mean I'm going to stop fighting to be given what I know that I should have. And these interns, they're giving up their entire lives to practically live at this hospital,
Mm-hmm.
and they're not even being paid. They're not even being paid enough to
To
live
live.
to live in Seattle, which I'm glad they're bringing this up because I knew a few weeks ago we were wondering what is the pay for interns, but I guess now we're learning it ain't good.
Well, I feel like we always knew that, even when the first magic happened. I mean, they always were broke. And it was always kind of, talked about and joked upon. And like Amelia and Richard and Bailey and Nick, and, they were all talking. They ate cereal and, ramen and mac and cheese and everything cheap you can get your hands on. I get it. And is that okay? Yeah, it's okay to be an intern and broke, but you at least need to make enough to where you can live and you can buy food. And that $15 a day that the hospital gives them needs to go up. Because if they are wanting them to work all these long hours, then I'm sorry, you need to feed them. If you're not going to pay them anything, or if you're going to pay them the bare minimum, which I get, you can't just go off paying them doctor's salary. I get it. They need to earn up to that, just like any kind of job you earn, you walk your way up. But it needs to at least base pay need to be enough to live in the city that you're hired in, whether that be Seattle, Chicago, New York, Dallas, I don't know,
And
Kissimmee, Florida, wherever.
given the fact that they have to spend so much time at the hospital, I'm assuming there really isn't much time left for them to take on another part-time job, which is what a lot of people in other professions do. They have to have a part-time job to supplement
Yeah.
the pay that to supplement, the pay that they're not getting from their full-time job. And I'm kind of under the impression that that's not so easy to do when you're a surgical intern.
Yeah. I mean, you're there at the hospital almost 24/7 as an intern, but you have to work a second job to be able to make ends meet. How? Like it's not doable. And so I really like their solution to this. Give grants to those who need them. Not everybody needs them. Blue doesn't need one. He's good. Like he comes from enough money to where he doesn't need the grant. But people who do need these little grants, and I'm sure they're not giving them a ton of money, but they're giving them enough to make up for their down spots.
Yeah, so it's a great start. Hopefully this continues.
Exactly.
And it's not just a one and done thing just for Mika's sake, which I'm glad they're doing this for Mika. But I hope it's not like a one and done thing. Like I hope this is something they do with, for other classes to come.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't want this to be like the last we ever hear about this. Like I want them to bring it up, not like make a huge deal out of it, but just bring it up that they're still doing it. Like, oh, well, blah, 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 she get a grant. And, you don't have to focus on it too much in passing. As long as the audience, us, knows that they're going to keep this going and take care of their interns better, I guess.
Yeah, even just have an intern mention, yeah, that grant's really helping me out. That'll be enough.
Guess who else I think might be getting a grant? I was so excited when I saw Richard talking to Helm. I was like, yes!
I was so excited because I knew that wheels were turning in Richard's head when Bailey was talking to him. Now, granted, it was funny the way that she said it. How why they call us residents? It's because we live here. Did I know the attending at the time? It was you. Of course it was. But I think on a more serious note, I think that really started turning the wheels in his head. Like, this isn't cool. Like, I think that kind of got him to the point where he was thinking that he was just focused on Helm coming back because he wanted her back, not because he wanted to do what he thought was good for her. So I like how he put it on her and said, what do you need? What do you need from me? If I want you back, what are you going to require from me?
Yep. It wasn't like, we'll give you this if you come back. It was more of a, what do you, that's going to make her feel more wanted and appreciated that way. And I think Helm is such a good doctor. Such a good doctor. And I mean, I feel like almost every episode we're talking about how much we want Helm back.
Yeah, and one of the reasons that I really want Helm back is because she balances out Levi really well. She calls him out on his stuff like no one else is able to, except maybe Joe. But I feel like we need another regular resident. I'm sure there are other residents at that hospital, but for the sake of the show,
nothing we know of, though.
We need another resident
surgical residents.
Yeah, to balance Levi out, because I mean, I think the man just has too much on his plate.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And his
absolutely
for some people, I'm sure, but not for everybody. So we need another resident who can come in and be like, he's being a jerk, you do this instead.
At least Levi didn't make me mad this week. I'll give him that. He did nothing to just really set me off.
Point for Levi this week. He didn't.
Point for Levi. 1 point for Levi because he did not make me very mad this week. And who else? Who did make me mad? was Winston. Amelia came to him, apologized. I don't feel like she needs to get on her freaking knees and grovel for his forgiveness.
Now, granted, does he have to be ready to accept an apology
No.
from her just because she's ready to give an apology? Absolutely not. But as a human being, the very least he could have done was I appreciate it. I'm not ready to hear it right now, and then walk away.
Yeah, he just turns and walks away, which I feel like it was so rude. I
Very
know she
fun.
was rude to him. I know she was wrong in her part, but I feel like they're upset about the same thing. Why do they got to be fighting?
He is
Honestly, I don't know.
he's
I don't know.
totally in the right to not accept her
Yeah,
apology and
yeah.
to need time away from her and to be like, I'm not ready to hear this right now.
Mm-hmm.
He needs to say that. He can't just roll his eyes and walk away. Like let's
It's ridiculous.
especially not when when she's delivering a very heartfelt, genuine apology. And what was that?
It's a fly. No, but I was not very impressed with Winston this week. So hopefully next week they can talk a little bit more and move past their fight. I'm tired of their drama. I'm tired of Maggie's like me still in the universe.
Yeah,
Go.
I'm so annoyed. Like I so want her to be gone. I was so excited for her to just leave, but she's still here,
Mm-hmm. No,
involved,
I don't. She needs
creating
to.
all of
Bleh.
these problems, all the way from Chicago with her Chicago style pizza. That isn't really pizza, but whatever. She's still causing all of these problems, and
Yes.
it's annoying.
So also she goes and apologizes to Mika, which I feel like she was way worse to Mika than she was ever to Winston. And Mika accepts her apologies and she says that she's sorry too, and she intimidates her.
I
Understandably.
I love that. That was so funny. She's like, I'm sorry too. What are you sorry for? Nothing. You intimidate me.
It did. I I did laugh. But it was like also at the same time, I'm like, hopefully, I don't want to stay on this too long because the whole Winston thing's just got me peeved off. Hopefully next week her and Winston can make up, and if he's gonna stay on the show, they gotta make up. I think Mika's okay with Amelia now. Amelia went through some things. She does. She did not relapse. She did exactly what she was supposed to do. And I am so freaking proud of Amelia. I really am. And
I was
I've never been a big fan of her, but I really am proud of her.
I was really scared for her last week because I really thought she was about to fall off the wagon, but
Me too.
um I really think Addison's visit to Seattle really saved the day.
I think between Addison and Richard, they
Yeah,
both really
I was pretty certain that even if she was about to relapse, Richard was not about to let it happen.
no. He's like, I need a meeting too.
She really respects Richard. Like if
She really
Richard
does.
was going to tell her you need to go to a meeting, like she would have been like, I'm dropping everything and going to that meeting.
Yeah. So back to I want to just jump back over to Helm. I really hope I really 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 hope we get Helm back so that we have more interns and residents to keep patients from roaming around the hospital like
Oh my God.
Blue's patient, which by the way broke my heart.
That poor woman.
Jules also broke my heart, but
I don't
she was a little hard on Blue.
She was a little hard on her, but I will say that I do agree with her with why was she not called?
I know.
Like
But I mean, she is the
right
patient and she said don't call her. So I understood Blue's like now if it was the original Magic team, guess what? They would have gone and told whoever it was, Meredith or Christina or whoever it was in the Magic, Izzy. I just they're also kind of new. And I don't know if they I feel like if it was like Izzy's patient back in the day and it was I don't know, let's say Christina's roommate that came in. I don't really know if Izzy would have run and told Christina if the patient had told Izzy not to.
well, the thing is, Izzy and Christina were not.
But I also don't feel like Jules and Blue have gotten, I know they're getting a lot closer recently, but they're also not like super close. Now, if it was like Meredith and Christina, they would have told each other immediately because they were like, they had that super bond. I think Jules and Blue are making a bond right now, but I don't think it's solidified yet, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
Maybe after this
But
week, though, they'll understand too about this more, about a relationship between intern and intern.
I can understand though why she was so upset because this is her. Well, I mean, it's her roommate, but I feel like it's a little bit more than that. This is like,
It's like her little surrogate
her
mother at this point, or grandmother, I guess.
mother who she gossips to about Blue, which
Mm-hmm.
I thought was funny when Max said, she's like, what did Jules call it? The girl code. I was like, the woman is holding up the girl code. I love it.
Yes. And at first, I thought she was like getting dementia, like really bad, or Alzheimer's, or something like that. That was like starting to really happen. But as soon as Bailey, I felt like knew almost immediately what it was, which, I mean, I'm not
She's Bailey.
surprised. It's Bailey. And then Levi was like, yep. And I liked seeing Levi with that much confidence. You know what I mean? Of just being like, yep, that's it. Let's go. We know what to do. Because I feel like he's like that in some parts, but also he always takes the safe route. And I think that's because Levi has screwed up several times in the past. But he always takes the safe route of what he's supposed to do. And he doesn't go around things anymore. And I don't know. It was nice to see him so just right there with Bailey and confident and moving and taking charge and acting, and it was nice to see. But also, before we move on from Jules too much, I guess she's going to be Simone's new maid of honor,
Which Simone had no idea.
She
And she
had
just
no
walks
idea.
with all these twins, and Simona's like, what the heck is this?
Yeah, it was dumb. Like, you're not even gonna like tell the bride that she's about to have a new maid of honor, or even ask her. That's her maid of honor.
She just gets, to the gets to the church, or wherever, and she's about to say, I do. Oh, oops, looks like I have a new maid of honor. Oh well.
I guess so.
Not like the bride really needs to know. I mean, is that really truly important?
I did not want Lucas to be maid of honor.
No,
I thought that was really screwed up of her to even ask.
In Lucas's defense, that was really messed up of her to ask him.
It was. And I understood where he was like kind of stuck in a hard spot of saying no, because he doesn't want to say no. He wants to help Simone. He wants to be next to her. He wants the best for Simone. And that's because at this point he loves her. You don't try to prove me wrong or tell me any different. They love each other. They're going to be together. They're going to be end game. We just got to go through this messy mess to get there. We all know it. But the reason Blue left our elderly neighbor, who I can't think of her name right now, Dolores?
Max?
Oh, Max. Dolores. I just went for the old lady name. So Max.
I'm going through my list of old lady names. One of them ought to stick.
Max was not on my list. And Max actually sounds a lot better now that I'm thinking about it. Dolores was something because that just popped in my head too fast. But Blue left Max to go see Link's super cool surgery this week, which I felt really bad for Link because he was super nervous, and I understand. And I was actually really mad at Owen this week, which I'm a huge Owen fan. I never get mad at Owen very often.
I'm so glad we're on the same page about this because, first of all, this is I get it's partly trauma because the man did, what was it? The man did break every bone in his body from a baseball thing gone wrong. That kind of screams trauma, but it's also primarily ortho, and that is Link's specialty. Like, he knows what he's talking about. He's not just some newbie who's coming in and being like, I think this might be the best idea. No, he's doing what he is certain is going to be best for the patient.
Mm-hmm.
And sure, the patient, what was his name? Sam? Sure, Sam definitely deserved to know all of the options and all of the risks that went with each option.
Mm-hmm.
But for Owen to just jump in right there and be like, actually, I think this might be a better option right in front of the patient.
My
like,
jaw went
could he not
to the ground.
Could he not just wait, and could he not just at least pull Link aside and be like,
Hey, I think this. No.
yeah, couldn't he have just pulled Link aside and been like, hey, I'm really not feeling good about this. Have you thought about this other option? I would have been okay with that. But right in front of the patient who,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to say this the nicest way I can, doesn't know better.
No.
I'm not a doctor. If a doctor who, if I broke every bone in my body, which, oh God, I hope I never do because that sounded painful.
Oh my
If
gosh.
I broke every bone in my body and one of the best orthos was telling me this is the best way to fix that, I'm going to believe them until someone else jumps in and says, hey, no, you got to do it this way.
Yeah. Absolutely. It's ridiculous. I was so irritated with Owen about this, but Joe thankfully kind of steps in a little bit, offers to join in the surgery, which I loved. I loved seeing Joe do some general surgery rather than her OB, which I thought was really cool this week to see, because I do miss seeing Joe like in the operating room and kind of really getting in there and stuff. And I love seeing her work next to Link. Like, was them working together was super cool for this week. Except I did not like Sam flirting with her.
No, not cool.
I did not like. I was like, excuse me, that's Link's girl.
Don't worry, Link, we got your back.
Back off. All right. So the surgery, I was really nervous about. I did not want this man to die, because I think if this man died, Link would retire.
Because, well, he'd already gone through the whole stuff with, what's his name?
Tank.
Is that his name?
Well, that's why we call him the Tank.
Yeah. So, like, he'd already gone through that thing with the tank. So I was like, the man just needs a win, or at least a patient who doesn't die.
Yeah. And I mean, thankfully, it all went okay. Owen stepped in. He should not have stepped in. And I really like that Link just said, hey, don't ever do that again. He stood up for himself and didn't make a big fuss, didn't get in a fight with him. But he did let Owen know that's not okay and don't do that again. And Owen said, okay. He understood. He gets it. So hopefully that won't happen again. I found it really respectful that both parties were kind of like understanding of that was not the way that should have gone. Not okay in any profession.
Winston, take note. This is how apologies are supposed to end up.
Yeah, let's be adults about this. People will always mess up. Always. We're human, all human. We're going to talk sometimes when we shouldn't talk. We're going to say things sometimes we shouldn't say. It's going to happen. We all got to be adults. Take it, accept the apology, or don't accept the apology, and move on. Be grown-ups. And Link and Owen really did nail it down this week. So I was impressed with it, because I was a little bit scared of how they were going to kind of react to each other afterwards. I think if Sam had died, I think that apology wouldn't have gone as good. That would have been a fight on, but everything ended up being okay.
Except for Sam hitting on Joe.
Except for
that was not cool.
And I guarantee you we're going to see more of it. And that's what's going to push Joe and Link together. I feel like it's going to kind of open their eyes more, and it's going to really push Link to saying something to Joe. I'm hoping that's why they're setting it up like this.
It better happen that way.
I mean, if I know anything I know about Grays, I feel like that's how they're going to be setting this up. But who knows? They like to shock us sometimes, guys, so I'm not going to say anything permanent. Because we see next week. The reason I say this, we see next week that Link is having issues with Sam and Joe. Link is jealous. That's why I'm like, this is going to really push Link to saying something, right? We know it. So I'm actually very excited for next week. I know I wasn't that impressed with this week. I'm more excited for next week. I want to see Link get jealous enough to say something to Joe. It needs to happen. And I don't see Joe saying anything first. I don't think she realizes that Link feels the way he feels. She knows how she feels. She has no idea how he feels, I feel like. Because he made that whole romantic dinner and everything, and the whole thing with Luna happened, and then it just like pooped out from there.
Yeah,
he never got to say anything.
He needs to say words and say them fast.
Quickly. Before she can say something.
You know what also amused me about the preview is Yasuda never fails to, like Mika, she never fails to have, she just has the best lines. I don't know how to explain. She always has the best lines. What was it? It's bad luck for the bride to see the roommate before the wedding. Never mind, good. I was like, that is just such, I feel like that's her dick pretty much, is that things just pour out of her mouth before she realizes what she's saying.
I get it.
She's an Amanda.
I do it all the time. And then I go, think before you speak. And I don't take my own advice.
It's fun. It makes you lovable. Just don't say mean things.
I really don't say mean things very often. I don't have many mean. I can be mean. If anybody out there knows horoscopes, I am a Sagittarius with a Scorpio rising and moon. I'm almost about as evil and crazy as we can get. But I'm a very nice person as long as you're on my good side.
So don't do anything to,
don't make me mad. And then we'll be fine. No, honestly, I'm not too crazy.
No, but next week's gonna be good. So
I know. I'm actually really looking forward to it.
It looks good, so I hope it is good.
I'm looking forward to it. Well, I think that's all. I think we've actually talked for a while about. So that's all we have for tonight. We have talked in depth about Station 19 and Grey's Anatomy. Do not forget to check out our socials and Facebook group, which is Grey's Anatomy Grey Family Fan Club. Tune in next week for more episodes. Sundays are our Fox nights where we talk about 911 and 911 Lone Star. Tuesday is our NBC nights where we discuss all three Chicagos. And Wednesdays is our nights we talk about ABC, which is Grey's Anatomy and Station 19. If one of those is out for the week, then we will usually fill it in with some sort of Netflix show. We just had one come out with all of our dating reality shows, which me and Jeanette kind of deep dived into Love is Blind and a little bit into The Circle and The Perfect Match. So that was a really interesting episode where you saw us really digging into those reality shows. So we have fun things coming with more Netflix. So make sure you subscribe if you have not already, and we will see you real soon. Bye.
Bye.
Loving our content? Subscribe to our YouTube channel, and don't forget to share our podcast with your family and friends. We want to continue the conversation with you. You can find us on Instagram, Twitter, or TikTok under Fandom Family Chats, or one of our ever-growing Facebook groups by searching Family Fan Club. We've also launched a website, Family Fan Club 2021 at wixsite.com. You can email us there and keep checking it for announcements and merch coming soon. And of course, be sure to tune in every week for new episodes discussing all your favorite shows.